Hello, friends and familiars, this is David, and today we're going to do something a little different. So, I don't think it's any big surprise that I'm a big kagepro boy, and even after 7 years, Jin still a genius. Today, we're going to talk about the manga, something that I don't really feel gets enough love. It's a little weird, sure, and it definitely isn't quite as plot heavy or as doesn't have the complexity that the novels do. The novels are really where you get the bulk of the story and the characters. And if you're looking for a good narrative, the novels are really where you go in terms of having a standalone piece. But that's all besides the point. The manga's been going for like ever. It's been going for a really long time. Hasn't stopped. And it's something that I feel like most of the fandom isn't as familiar with. A lot of people dropped off after Mekaku City Actors for good reason, and the manga didn't really hit its stride, I feel, until after. Because the most interesting thing about the manga is this weird perversion of the story that we're at right now. The way this recent route so thoroughly twists one's expectations and plays with what we expect the Kagerou project to be. So, today we're all going to look at chapter 59 of Kagerou Daze, Red 2, which just released not that long ago. So, chapter 59 mostly focuses in on the Kisaragis, which has always been a topic of interest for me, the Kisaragis, and the relationship between Shintaro and Momo. We see and we have seen that Shintaro and Momo have this very interesting, complex relationship. They're the only They are family, but they're estranged from one another. They have gone through many hardships together, but we don't really know or see how each of them react to that. And what this chapter really gets across is that the Kisaragis have always loved each other. It really goes to show just how close Shintaro and Momo really are, or rather, how close they really want to be. So the chapter starts, and we get this nice, playful little scene of Shintaro being a jaded little piece of garbage, even when he was a child, and Momo is pestering him to play with her, and, she gets all upset because Shintaro's too jaded and doesn't care about freaking playing games. And after a little goading, they end up at the park together, and they're just making these little dirt ball things, and it's great. And what we see from this, what this is all getting at, what Momo throwing a little temper tantrum as a child really is all about, is that we see just how much Momo has always wanted a relationship with her brother. We see that Momo never knew how to approach Shintaro, but always wanted to. She always wanted to play with him as a child, and as we know from things like Mekaku City Actors, Momo really did feel for Shintaro when Shintaro lost Ayano, but she just didn't know how to react. And this is something we're going to see a lot, is this sort of desire from one of the siblings to protect the other that goes unmet, not because the will isn't there, but because they just don't know what to do. They don't know how to cope with this scenario. They don't know how to cope with this person that is so different from them. So Shintaro and Momo are playing, and Momo has this moment of pride in which she decides that she is going to teach Shintaro how to swim. And this is, of course, alluding to the event that will inevitably end up with the death of Kisaragi, with the death of their father. So Momo is very proud because she is always being compared to Shintaro. Shintaro being this smart guy, this genius. And it's at once this feeling of pride where Momo finally has something she can do that Shintaro can't, as well as like this opportunity to interact with her brother that both of them really do look forward to. And then we cut we cut to the funeral, and Momo looks at Shintaro. There's this fantastic series of panels where Momo looks up at Shintaro with her red eyes, completely hopeless, and Shintaro takes her hand, saying that he's going to take care of her. And, of course, what's important here is the context. This scene is really great for a number of reasons in any context. But in particular, you have to understand that a couple chapters ago, Momo died. Momo was killed by the Clearing Eyes snake, pushed off a building, as it were. And Shintaro, we didn't really get to see how he reacted to it, because a lot was going on during the time. Not long after Shintaro found out that Momo died, the Clearing Eyes was like antagonizing the group, and Konoha appeared, and then Konoha got eaten by the Clearing Eyes. So a lot's been going on. Shintaro hasn't had a lot of time to really think about and wrestle with his sister's death. And we see, this is a flashback, obviously. We see him reflecting on this time in which the final things he wanted were to protect his sister. And we know from stuff like the novels, and I know it's a different timeline, whatever, but even earlier in the manga, in this route, we see that Shintaro and Momo don't have the kind of relationship that we know they both wanted. Shintaro still becomes a shut-in when Haruka dies and Takane tries and kills herself. I guess we learn at the end of the chapter that her suicide attempt might not have been entirely successful. But we know that Shintaro still becomes a shut-in when Shintaro and Momo are out looking for Hiyori earlier in the timeline, rather. We see that their relationship is still pretty estranged, perhaps not as much as the novels or in Mekaku City Actors, or the songs even. They do seem like they have a bit of a closer relationship, perhaps, but it is still damaged, and we still know that, or rather we can still infer based off of Momo's actions in Route 1 that even though Ayano was not a factor in Shintaro's grief, that when he fell into depression, like he did over Haruka and over Takune, that Momo must have been there for her. And to see that moment reflected in these panels, it's really short in episode 8 of Mekaku City Actors, the moment where Shintaro's grieving at Ayano's funeral, and we see Momo looking on, not sure how to react. To see that moment paralleled, but gone further here, where Momo is devastated. She feels at fault for the death of her own father, and Shintaro's, obviously. And Shintaro just takes her hand, saying, "It's okay. I'm going to be there." And to know that that desire kind of goes unmet, because Shintaro wasn't there. He fell into his own depression that he had problems facing, and Momo was kind of left alone, supporting the family with her idol work, which she herself, we know, isn't exactly the biggest fan of. So hard cut to the present, and Shintaro is very visibly downtrodden. He is very mad. It's anger, really. It's anger, and he is just fed up with everything. And so this is chapter 59, and chapter 58 ended with Shintaro at the keyboard, and he's typing in the darkness, and right at the end he goes "mitsuketa," and he's figured out where the Clearing Eyes went, because after the big confrontation with the Clearing Eyes, the Dawn went back home. They reunited with Ayano. There was a nice touching scene where Kano and Ayano reconnect after Ayano tried to kill Mary and got kicked out of, or rather the kids, the Mekakushi trio and Mary ditched Ayano because she was crazy. They kind of reconnect, and that was great. But Shintaro is pissed because, his sister has been murdered, and you get the feeling. This is interesting, because this is really what Shintaro's struggle has been always, is the feeling that he has not done enough. It's sort of this conscious regret that he has over being able to recognize sorrow and not act upon it. This is really what his problems were with Ayano, was that he saw that she was going through something, but he didn't know what to do with that knowledge. So he just kind of didn't act upon it, even though he knew that Ayano was dealing with something that was really eating away at her. And when he found out that she was dead, and of course, with Kano goading him on like that, how could he not blame himself? Because he was a bystander to this horrible plight of someone who was close to him. And this is really exactly what we have here. It's really interesting in which ways this new timeline in the manga parallels events that we already know, but also contrasts them in other ways. So here, it's with Momo, where Shintaro grew up with Momo, never had a close relationship with her because, he was so smart and he was treated so differently. But we know that Shintaro always did care for Momo. We've known this all along. In all of the media, in the songs, in the novels, in the manga, in the other manga timelines. We've known that Shintaro has always cared for Momo, even if he didn't know how to react and how to really treat her. And here, to see, especially with this funeral scene, in which Shintaro takes her by the hand, and he says that he will be there for her, to know that he then wasn't there for her, and that Momo, after pulling him out of the house, again, this is still, in fact, it's even more so in this manga timeline. Because in this manga timeline, the whole Soda knocking over his soda and how he has to go buy a keyboard, that is not how Shintaro gets out of the house and meets the dawn. It's that Momo takes him out of the house. Momo takes him out of the house in kind of this stupid little gag thing that inevitably ends up with them meeting Hibiya and Hiyori. But Momo is the one that gets Shintaro back out again, and for him to lose her, for him to just discover that she has died and that he never got to be the brother that he wanted to be, that really eats away at him. But we also see how far Shintaro's come, because he doesn't just fall into depression again. This isn't a Haruka and Takane situation. Shintaro is still obviously coping with it not the best. He is extremely angry. He is extremely wrathful. He's seeking vengeance because, obviously, because the Clearing Eyes not only is identifiable as the person responsible, but was taunting him the entire time. And at the end of this chapter, at the end of chapter 59, Shintaro has discovered where the Clearing Eyes is, and he's not thinking. He is immediately going out to try and, fight the Clearing Eyes, fight Kuroha, and NA is trying to talk sense into him. And NA immediately tells him, you're not going to go try and solo 1v1 the Clearing Eyes. That's just not going to work. And Shintaro doesn't care. He is so far gone, so consumed with his wrath that he just isn't seeing reason. And this prompts Takane to go into an explanation of what happened to her, which is very interesting because Takane in this route is fascinating. In this version, in this timeline of the manga, Takane, Shintaro, and Haruka were all friends because they all met in the hospital. They didn't meet at school or during the cultural festival. And Takane didn't really know Shintaro. She did, but they didn't interact a lot. It was mostly Haruka was friends with Shintaro and Haruka was friends with Takane, and occasionally Takane and Shintaro interacted because Haruka was there. Which I guess is kind of how it is anyway. But their relationship is even less so. And we know that it's this extremely tragic thing in which Haruka has a similar arc with Shintaro, in which Haruka helps Shintaro out of his depression, and Shintaro was going to drop out of school, or rather he wasn't going to go to high school because he thought school was pointless. And Haruka tells him, how wonderful he thinks school is because he can't go to school because his body is so just, messed up. And it's this horrible, horrible, heartbreaking panel in which Shintaro is carrying his high school acceptance letter because Haruka changed his mind on high school, changed his mind on school. He was going to give school a shot because he had this respect for it, because Haruka couldn't experience it. And that day he finds out that Haruka died. Haruka had a heart attack and died. And that Takane, upon getting this knowledge, Takane had this weird thing where she was she was jealous of the relationship between Haruka and Shintaro. But upon learning that Haruka really did care for her, she has a similar thing where she's like, oh, I gotta go see Haruka, and because I've realized this. And then she finds out that Haruka is dead and that, he died without Takane. He died with Takane treating him poorly because of this stupid jealousy and misunderstanding. And it is implied, I guess we'll learn more in the coming chapters, but it is implied heavily that Takane killed herself, that Takane jumped off the hospital roof. And it's interesting what sort of relationship Takane and Shintaro are going to have, because they don't have, or rather, the relationship doesn't make as much sense yet. In Route 1, we know that they were friends, they were in the UK quartet, and that after having the tragedy of August 15th happen to them, Takane went to Shintaro because, for a number of reasons, because he was the only person left, and because she could clearly see how much he was hurting. This is something they go into in From the Darkness, and it's my favorite part of From the Darkness, is Takane going into, the reasons why she's with Shintaro, and the implications of their relationship therein. It's really good stuff. So, the question is always, well, why did she really bother going to Shintaro in this timeline? And I guess it's probably for similar stuff, but I can't imagine this flashback is going to be very long. The problem with Jin's writing, the problem with Jin's writing in general is his propensity for flashbacks that are very long and separate and segment the actual plot. In this timeline of the manga, we had a prolonged flashback with Azumi that was great, I guess, in its own right, but really could have been trimmed down. Reading the manga is kind of a pain because the chapters come out very far away from each other sometimes, and these flashbacks are killer. But and especially now in the manga, because I don't think the core story has been so interesting ever because of how different everything is in this timeline of the manga. But it's going to be very interesting seeing how my favorite relationship in the project, which is Shintaro and Takane, evolves in this current situation. So yeah, this chapter is pretty dope. The chapters, actually, all of the recent ones in the manga have been fantastic, but the expounding upon of the Kisaragi sibling relationship really is something that I've looked forward to for a while. It's something that's always been there, but to see it now come to the forefront is just great. I'll leave a link to the only real place that you can read the manga, which is on Tumblr. I'll leave a link to Kiki the Deceiver, her, I think it's, pronouns. Anyway, I don't know what gender they are, to their scans of 59. And in fact, they're pretty much the only way you can read the manga in its current state. So I hope everyone goes and checks it out. It really is worth catching up on if anyone's fallen off with it. The new timeline is fascinating. It's a bad end, but the reason I think it's so fascinating is because it's a bad end that is expounded upon, which is not something we've really ever gotten. The bad ends usually come and it's like instant, Kuroha kills everyone. But no, Kido dies, it sucks, and Kido dies. We then quickly learn that Hiyori is back out of the daze, which is nuts. Ayano never killed herself, but also never knew Shintaro. Momo is dead. There's just lots of weird things going on. And it's because everyone's also out to get the clearing eyes. Shintaro, the Mecha Kushidan is less of a thing as it is in everything else. The characters all meet up for different reasons, but yeah, it's interesting because the only other time the Dawn has actively been like plotting against the Clearing Eyes has been in the two last volumes of the manga, Summertime Reload and From the Darkness, in which they have this plan to fight the Clearing Eyes. And seeing Shintaro be so driven is, and for entirely different reasons than in the novels. In the novels, he's driven because of the bonds that he's made, and in this timeline, he's driven because of the bonds that he's lost. That's fascinating. The Kisaragi sibling relationship in general gets more focus because, like I said, Momo's the one that takes him out into the world again. All of it is really good, and I definitely recommend catching up on the manga if anyone has lost pace with it. And it is a little obtuse to get into and read, but I do think it's worth it. It is fascinating, and it does expound upon the information we know. It is definitely a very valuable part of the project. So yeah, God only knows when another chapter is coming out. I think it's in April. Yeah, but there's plenty to read. The Kagerou project is great. I love it. And maybe someday soon, Summertime Reload will be translated into English and we can know how the story ends. If there will ever be an end. Of course, the Kagerou project will never end, as it never should. Okay. Have a good one, everyone. This is David, signing off.